Howdy, folks. Thanks for tuning in for another Cruise with Smooth. Hope y'all doing okay today. I tell you what, I am getting so stinking tired of the absurdity in news commentary and public opinion. Now, I said that, but I'm going to say this, and I'll be honest with you, okay, Ruth Bader Ginsberg died, okay, and I know that she catches a lot of flack from conservative-minded people, and she tends to follow a more left-wing Democrat perspective on a lot of things, and I do know of a couple votes that she cast that I highly disagree with. The biggest one stating that the Second Amendment did not guarantee average citizens the right to keep and bear arms. So there's obviously some of her opinions that I disagree with beyond a couple of the more prominent ones. I'll be honest, I don't know many, if any, of her opinions or votes on the Supreme Court. So, I don't really have a opinion on her aside from the fact that she voted something that was plainly anti-constitution. Because and here's how I come up with that, and I am not a lawyer or a judge or a justice or anything like that. I am a factory worker. But here's how I come up with that being unconstitutional. When she cast that vote to decide that, it was you were looking at not only a piece of paper that was written hundreds of years ago, 250 plus, but you were also, I'm looking at the historical context. So while I'm not saying that I am smarter from a legal perspective than Ruth Bader Ginsberg on constitutional law, there's a ton of judges that have sat on that court that have heard cases on the Second Amendment that I can choose to agree with, and she's one of the very small dissenting opinions on that, as far as the number of people that have cast a vote that way on the Supreme Court. So I disagree with a couple of her decisions and her dissenting opinions. That said, wow, talk about determination. I remember when... That sounded good. I remember September 1st, 2016 very well. My dad was diagnosed with cancer. We didn't know anything. It had apparently gone unchecked for a number of years. So by the time we caught it, it was full-blown stage 4 due to some prior medical conditions that he had had lifelong, no viable treatment option. The cure had every potential to be as bad as, if not worse, than the disease due to his medical conditions. He had heart issues. Chemotherapy is typically... Pardon me just a second, folks. I'm sorry. He was a lifelong heart patient due to a couple birth defects, and chemotherapy is not prescribed for him, so he kind of had to tough it out. And he ended up not lasting long, and I saw what cancer did to him. My aunt had cancer in her leg a few years back. So, I've watched people fight it and succumb to it. And for Ruth Bader Ginsberg, especially at her age, because my dad and my aunt were in their 60s when this happened. So they had a little more strength than I'm assuming Ruth Bader Ginsberg did in her battle with cancer, just due to age. I remember watching Dad go from out active traveling across the state for work to didn't want to go in the car anywhere too long to wasn't comfortable driving to nearly bedridden to bedridden in 4 months. So cancer's rough, and good golly, to have the kind of spirit to, at her age, to not only, okay, we're going to fight cancer, but to continue to be a Supreme Court justice and live the life that she had been living for a while. Props to her. That's some darn determination, if I've ever seen it. Like I said, I don't know many of her rulings on the Supreme Court. I don't know her dissenting opinions, aside from that one that I just cited. But, it's funny. I'm in a couple groups on Facebook. I've got some left-leaning friends on Facebook. And everything surrounding this is stupid. First off, and I'm going to condemn my own side, and I haven't seen the newscast, so I could be wrong, but a good friend of mine, who I disagree with on a lot of things politically, said that he was watching Fox News, and it seemed like they were basically cheering the fact that now there's a vacant seat on the Supreme Court. If that's the case, shame on Fox News. I said, he's like, no one should be rooted to die, and I said, no, there's a couple people that you should cheer that they died. But I said, you've got to go back probably over 100 years to get to 10. And I'm not the biggest history buff beyond 1930 American history, so I'm not the guy to even ask to get that. So there are a few people that I can think of: Pol Pot, Mao Zedong, Hitler, and that's in the 1900s that I can come up with. They died. It's a good thing. Joe Stalin. But anyway, if that's the case, shame on Fox News for cheering that on. I haven't watched it. I don't know. I'm going with his take. He's also biased against them, so he might have been reading intent into their words that wasn't legitimately there. So I said, I feel sorry for her family. I've watched cancer firsthand a couple times. It is no fun to watch. It sucks. It sucks the life out of a person, whether they get treatment or not. It's just a terrible, awful thing to watch. It's out of all the ways I've watched someone succumb to something, and not a car accident or something, it's probably the second worst way I've seen so far, the worst way being long-term Alzheimer's. Because the person dies, their body just don't know about it, because they know nothing that they used to know. They know nothing about who they are, who you are. It's terrible. So Alzheimer's, I think, is about the worst way to go. Cancer being more painful, Alzheimer's being dehumanizing. But it frustrates me because some of these Facebook groups and posts, like, okay, shame on Fox for cheering that on if they did. But a friend of mine who's best I can describe them, they are somewhat political but not highly knowledgeable. Sure, let's just stop in the middle of the road on a curve. But political but not knowledgeable. Sorry about that, folks. Someone move, dog. Jeez. Political but not knowledgeable. They posted something about Kyle Rittenhouse, the young 17-year-old that defended himself with lethal force. And I used a very small argument to basically shut down her opinion on him. I'm like, look, okay, in my opinion, he may have broke some gun laws, being in possession of, transporting a firearm, whatnot, to and from there. If he did, it's very possible he should be charged. And if he did, I think he should be charged. I said, those laws aside, having watched the videos, he defended himself. He didn't start anything. 3 guys were coming after him. 3 guys caught hot lead. Not trying to sound morbid, but that's what happened. And I said, okay, now imagine this. He didn't have the gun. The same thing happens. He gets the crap beat out of him. Maybe killed. Why should he let that happen? Or, imagine this. Suppose he's like a 3rd-degree black belt in some martial art. And those same 3 guys attacked him, but they were attacking. One of them had a skateboard that he hit him in the head with. One of them had a gun in his hand that he aimed at him. Imagine he beat, with his bare hands, he beat him to death and wounded one pretty bad, where he's going to have long-term problems. Do we care about that? I don't know. So, she's got political opinions, but she hasn't thought through a lot of them, in my opinion. Anyway, they're posting things on Facebook, it's all over, we've lost Ruth Bader Ginsberg. You can have whatever opinion you want about Ruth Bader Ginsberg, but I don't think anyone would say that she was the glue that made the country work and hold together. Most Supreme Court justices come down with opinions that are divisive, both sides of the political spectrum. So I hate when hyperbolic statements like that dominate things. In my lifetime, I don't even know how many Supreme Court justices I've lived through. I can tell you I've lived through, H.W. Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama, Trump, 5 presidents. And in that time, very little in my life changed due to the president because of the way that our government is set up to work. The Founding Fathers were a lot smarter than people give them credit for. Pardon me. Not sponsored, just tired. They foresaw a lot of things that cause men problems that stem from just ambition and lack of sympathy and things like that in the heart of man. They foresaw a lot of the issues that could have come up and drafted a constitution to help prevent them. People always talk about the gridlock in D.C. Guess what? It was supposed to be gridlock. It's been gridlocked for 150, 200 years at this point. If you look up some of your history in the 1830s, 40s, and 50s, there was a ton of gridlock when it came to repealing slavery. So, you can't look at something and say that it would be better if it was this way or wasn't this way, or why is it this way now. It's always been this way. So I think that, one person in politics dying, stepping out of office, getting voted out, not, reaching the end of, or reaching their term limit, that's not going to decide everything. People that make the president, their elected officials at the federal level, and federal judges and everything else that think that that's the end-all be-all in their personal life. How do you live day to day? You want to know how many times I've observed Donald Trump's tweets firsthand? 0. I don't have a Twitter. If I did, I probably wouldn't follow him, because he could say something, and every time he says something, whether I agree with it or not, there's a dumpster fire in the comments. Why would I subject myself to that? I'm a fan of Donald Trump from strictly a policy perspective. I'm not necessarily a fan of the guy, but no one else was talking about doing the things that he was doing the way he's doing them. So, love or hate the guy, I really like the policies coming out of the White House. But people that let politicians that they love or hate live in their head rent-free forever, that just boggles my mind. I can talk politics for hours with you if you'll sit down and agree to a few decent terms, as far as you're not going to call me a Nazi and a racist, and I'm not going to call you a fascist communist. If we can agree to those things and agree to respect the person, even if we don't respect the ideas, I will talk to you until I'm blue in the face, and I will let you talk to me until you're blue in the face, and we can disagree as much as possible, and I'll enjoy the conversation if we're civil. But on a day in, day out basis, look, I took 2 1-week breaks from recording this. It's not the biggest deal in the world to me. I'd much rather talk about cars. So I don't get everybody letting these people live in their heads rent-free, whether it's good ideas or not. It doesn't matter. But, okay, just in a theoretical world, suppose that everything that Donald Trump put pen to paper was 100% good. Just hypothetical, like everybody, yeah, Trump did this, Trump did that, that's good for this, that's good for that cause, that's good for these people, that's good for this, foreign ally, that's good for whatever. Every bit of it was 100% good. And I'm one of these die-hard, let a politician live in my head rent-free kind of people. Well, then, hang on a second, folks, this is going to be a 2-parter.